Welcome to Innovation Pulse, your quick, no-nonsense update on the latest in clean tech and EVs. First, we will cover the latest news. Finland activates a massive sand-based battery to cut emissions, while China's electric vehicle market faces a price war led by BYD. After this, we dive deep into the challenges facing the electric pickup truck segment and what it means for the future of EVs. In Finland, the world's largest sand-based battery has been activated. This innovative thermal energy storage system heats sand using electricity, often from renewable sources, storing heat to warm buildings later. Located in Pornanen, the battery uses crushed soapstone, a byproduct from a fireplace maker housed in a silo. Despite its simplicity compared to lithium-ion batteries, it promises significant carbon emission reductions by replacing costly oil and reducing wood chip consumption by 60%. The sand battery can store 1,000 megawatt-hours of heat, enough for a week in winter, with minimal heat loss. Finland's grid, mainly renewable and nuclear, offers cheap electricity, enhancing the battery's efficiency. As renewables become more economical, interest in thermal batteries is growing, with various startups exploring different materials for energy storage solutions. The electric vehicle market in China is buzzing with talk of a price war, particularly involving automaker BYD. Critics argue that BYD's pricing strategy is unsustainable, yet the company continues to post profits, even boasting a profit margin above 5% in early 2025. BYD is leveraging cost reductions to pass savings to consumers, maintaining a competitive edge. Other Chinese automakers like Li Auto and Geely are also profitable, highlighting a robust EV sector. Despite its success, BYD holds only around 15% of China's automotive market, suggesting room for growth. Concerns arise about market distortion when companies sell at a loss, shifting focus from customer needs to capital attraction. BYD's pricing includes government incentives, meaning few buyers benefit fully. With strong financials and strategic reinvestment in R&D, BYD remains a formidable player, while competitors are urged to focus on innovation and global expansion. And now, pivot our discussion towards the main clean tech topic.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another deep dive on Innovation Pulse. I'm Donna, and we've got some really fascinating stuff to unpack today about the electric vehicle market. Yakov, you've been digging into some pretty eye-opening data about electric pickup trucks. What's the story here?
Thanks, Donna. So here's the thing that's been blowing my mind lately. We're seeing this massive disconnect between the hype around electric pickup trucks and what's actually happening in the real world. I mean, when Tesla first announced the Cybertruck back in 2019, they had over 1 million reservations. Elon Musk was predicting sales of over 250,000 trucks per year.
Right, and that seemed totally reasonable at the time. I remember thinking, of course people want electric trucks. Best of both worlds, right?
Exactly, but here's where it gets really interesting from a market dynamics perspective. The Cybertruck is now managing barely 40,000 units per year. That's not even close to those ambitious projections. And get this, the Cybertruck is actually considered one of the most successful electric pickups on the market right now.
Wait, hold up. If the Cybertruck is considered successful at 40,000 units, what does that tell us about the other players?
That's the million-dollar question, Donna. Ford's F-150 Lightning is facing similar challenges. They had massive reservation numbers too, but those reservations just aren't converting into actual sales. And when you think about it from a business fundamentals perspective, this reveals something really important about consumer behavior that the automakers might have misunderstood.
Lay it on me. What are people actually saying when they're asked why they won't buy these trucks?
So this is where it gets really educational about market research. Industry analysts are pointing to 3 core issues. First, there's the utility problem. When you load up an electric truck with cargo or hook up a trailer, the range drops dramatically. Second, charging infrastructure anxiety is still very real, especially for people who need to drive to multiple work sites. And third, this one surprised me, the price point problem.
The price thing is interesting because wasn't the whole appeal that these trucks would be more affordable to operate long term?
Right. And this is a perfect example of how marketing promises can create unrealistic expectations. Both the Cybertruck and the F-150 Lightning were initially advertised with a $40,000 starting price. Neither has ever actually hit that price point in practice. So consumers are looking at significantly higher upfront costs, and here's the kicker. Pickup truck buyers are generally less sensitive to fuel economy concerns anyway.
Ah, that makes total sense. If you're buying a truck primarily for utility and capability, fuel efficiency is probably not your top priority.
Exactly. And this touches on something really fundamental about understanding your customer base. There's this great insight from industry analyst Carl Brauer. He points out that trucks were originally built in the 1920s to get work done, and that's still why most people buy them today. Even if truck owners don't regularly push their vehicles to the limit, they want to know they can when needed.
So it's kind of like buying insurance. You hope you don't need the maximum capability, but you want to know it's there when you do need it.
Perfect analogy, Donna. And here's where electric drivetrains face their biggest challenge in the truck segment. When you load up the bed, hook up a trailer, and drive to multiple job sites, electric trucks struggle with range, and refueling becomes much more complicated than just pulling into any gas station.
This is making me think about market timing too. Are we seeing this struggle because the technology isn't quite ready, or because the supporting infrastructure isn't there yet?
That's such an important question, and I think it's both. The technology is improving rapidly. Battery energy density keeps getting better. Charging speeds are increasing. But the infrastructure piece is particularly challenging for truck buyers because they often need to access more remote locations where charging stations are scarce.
Right. And that leads me to wonder about market segmentation. Are there certain types of truck buyers who might be more open to electric?
Absolutely. The industry is starting to see that the pickup truck market isn't monolithic. You've got your heavy-duty work truck buyers, your adventure and outdoor recreation folks, your suburban utility users, and your lifestyle buyers. Each segment has different priorities and pain points.
And presumably different tolerance for the current limitations of electric trucks.
Exactly. For someone who primarily uses their truck for weekend projects and occasional hauling around town, an electric truck might work great. But for contractors who need to tow heavy equipment to remote job sites multiple times per week, the current generation of electric trucks just isn't practical yet.
This is fascinating because it shows how innovation doesn't just happen in isolation. It has to align with real-world use cases and existing infrastructure. What are you seeing in terms of solutions or workarounds?
Well, there are some interesting developments. There's a company called Slate Trucks that's taking a different approach. They're focusing on a much lower price point, around $25,000 before tax credits, with a more stripped-down, utilitarian design. They claim over 100,000 deposits, but as we've learned, deposits don't always translate to sales.
That's a really smart positioning strategy, though. If you can't compete on capability right now, compete on price, and focus on the segments where capability requirements are lower.
Exactly, and it highlights something important about market entry strategies. Sometimes you have to start with a beachhead market and expand from there, rather than trying to replace the entire traditional market immediately.
This whole conversation is making me think about the broader implications for the auto industry, too. Truck sales are absolutely critical for many automakers' profitability, especially in the American market.
You're absolutely right, Donna. Companies like Ford and GM rely heavily on truck profits to fund their other operations. If they can't figure out how to make electric trucks work economically and practically, it could significantly impact their transition to electrification.
And meanwhile, the regulatory environment is pushing toward electrification, but consumer behavior isn't necessarily following at the same pace.
That's the classic innovation adoption challenge. You have technology pushed from regulations and environmental concerns, but you also need market pull from consumers who see clear benefits. Right now, for many truck buyers, those benefits aren't clear enough to overcome the drawbacks.
So, what's your take on where this goes from here? Are we looking at a fundamental mismatch, or is this just growing pains?
I think it's primarily growing pains, but with important lessons about market research and product development. The technology will continue improving. Better batteries, faster charging, more infrastructure. But automakers also need to be more realistic about timelines and more targeted about which customer segments they're serving initially.
That makes sense. It's like the classic technology adoption curve. You start with early adopters who are willing to accept limitations, then gradually expand as the technology improves and becomes more mainstream.
Exactly. And what's encouraging is that we're seeing companies like Toyota making big strategic moves. They're spending $33 billion to acquire Toyota Industries to better control their supply chain and speed up decision-making. That kind of long-term thinking and vertical integration could really help accelerate the development of practical electric trucks.
It sounds like the companies that will succeed are the ones that really understand their customers' actual needs, not just their stated preferences.
Absolutely, Donna. And that's probably the biggest takeaway here. Innovation has to serve real customer needs. It's not enough to build a technically impressive product if it doesn't solve problems that customers actually have in their daily lives.
So maybe the lesson for our listeners is that whether you're developing products, investing in companies, or just trying to understand market trends, you always have to look beyond the initial hype and really dig into the underlying customer behavior and practical constraints.
Perfectly said. The electric truck market isn't dead. It's just finding its footing. But success is going to require a much more nuanced understanding of different customer segments and their specific needs.
Well, this has been a really enlightening conversation about the intersection of technology, market dynamics, and consumer behavior. Thanks for breaking this down so clearly, Yakov.
Always a pleasure, Donna. These kinds of market puzzles are exactly why innovation is so fascinating to watch unfold.
Absolutely. For our listeners, this is a great reminder to always look beneath the surface when evaluating new technologies or market trends. Sometimes the most important insights come from understanding why something isn't working as expected. Thanks for tuning in to Innovation Pulse. Until next time, keep questioning and keep learning.
We've explored Finland's innovative use of a sand-based battery to cut emissions and China's electric vehicle market dynamics, alongside the challenges facing the electric pickup truck sector. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with your friends and colleagues so they can also stay updated on the latest news and gain powerful insights. Stay tuned for more updates.